Hello. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us. I'm Paul Leslie, Senior Content Creator here with ZeroBounce. And today I have the great privilege and pleasure to talk with Luke Glasner. He has more than 20 years of expertise in email marketing, and he's the Director of Email Deliverability with ZeroBounce. So, Luke, I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for making time to talk to me.
Thanks for having me on today, Paul.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I had the opportunity to listen to an in-depth interview with you, The Future of Email. So I believe in giving credit where credit is due. It was a very informative, but you have many, many years, perhaps more than most of the guests that I've had a chance to interview. You've done all parts of email. Is
Yes.
there a part of it that makes you the most passionate, or a part of it that you find the most fascinating?
Well, a lot of people in the email space know my work around metrics, and that's been one of the big areas that I've been very involved in over the years, and of course, throughout my entire email career. I also really like deliverability, obviously. I am very excited about coding emails as well, which is something that you just don't see as much anymore as when I first started, but a good coder can make an email really shine.
Well, what is it about the metrics? What interests you about that?
When I started, the thing that was getting me about metrics was the fact that there was no real standard for email metrics back in the day in the early thousands. And I led a project at the Email Experience Council, which has gone through some additional names since then. But the project was called the same project. It stood for Support Adoption of Metrics for Email. And we brought together over 30 ESPs from around the globe to come up with industry standards for email metrics measurement. At the time, one of the things I would say about the project was that it showed some maturity of the email industry and that we had become a powerhouse of an industry and a mature industry because we actually have metric standards for how things are calculated. I used to describe it as, imagine if when you got in your car and you typed in an address for your GPS, if everyone counted the distance of a mile slightly different, right?
Hmm.
While directionally we're all going in the right direction, you may be missing turns because everyone's map isn't the same. So that's something that I worked on and was really proud of. And I like the metrics of email because, there's that famous quote by Mr. Wanamaker. I know half of my money on advertising is wasted, but I don't know which half. The thing about email metrics is it tells you where is the waste and what is working. And it really allows for a wonderful environment for you to conduct testing and improvement and benchmarking and things like that. And that goes across all of email, not just campaign data, but you can use the same type of benchmarking. Am I improving my inbox placement? Am I reducing my spam complaints? Am I doing better at deliverability? So it's all measurable, and things that get measured tend to matter. Um, and that's really a lot about my love for email metrics.
Have you seen the way people look at metrics, what they measure? Have you seen that change through the years?
Yes, in fact, we have dramatically changed in things like open rates, which when I started was a very big thing to calculate and talk about and focus in on. But with things like Apple MPP, open rates aren't reliable the way they've been in the past. So it has moved away. People are moving away from opens and focusing more on metrics that matter, which there's also clicks, and I've also seen a big rise in bot clicks, or I like to call them filter clicks, where different systems will go through the link to check for, say, if there's a virus attached to the end of it. Those can sometimes show up in your reports. So those two metrics have lost a bit of their accuracy over my time. But the other big shift I've seen is that email marketers are now focusing on metrics that matter, right? You need to focus a lot more on business KPIs. If somebody opens an email, there is value there. There are brand impressions there. But if it's not resulting in conversions down the line, it's just not where you should be focusing. And in fact, that brings me to one of my favorite metrics, which is revenue per email, or RPE. If there was any metric I would say you should watch and use for testing, it's that one.
That's very interesting because as somebody who reads a lot about email, I don't see RPE mentioned nearly as much as some of the others.
Yes, that's probably because for a lot of people, that's not right. We tend to focus on the metrics that are reported within our ESP. So those are your standard open, click, unsubscribe, bounce, and spam complaints. And from a deliverability perspective, I also want to focus in on my second favorite metric, which is spam complaints, right? If you're getting a lot of spam complaints, and a lot is roughly more than 1 per 1,000, so it is a tiny number, that is the quickest way to end up in the junk folder is spam complaints. So you really need to be laser focused on that and come in on it, pay attention to it, and keep it as low as you can.
Luke, how do you think someone can make their opt-ins and the opt-in process better?
Well, there's two things they can do. They of course can do real-time validation, which is something ZeroBounce does. So it checks the email address while they're filling out a form, right? So that reduces junk coming into your forms. It reduces bot signups, and it makes sure that, like, you're not, someone signed up, but maybe they made a typo. Maybe they typed .gmail or .con at the end of their address. If you're not checking them, it's quite possible that you had someone that was interested, but now you lost them due to a simple typo. So that's one of the ones that's very important. The other thing is to secure your forms with things like CAPTCHA, because the amount of bot signups and like form attacks I have seen in the past 2 to 3 years has exponentially grown. I don't have a study to cite, but I can just tell you from my own experience working with clients, like I've never seen as many fake signups as I've seen in the past 2 years. Is probably the most out of my 20+ year career.
Hmm. Wow. What misconception about email do you find persists?
One of the ones, and it's related to deliverability, is what people think of when they think of content filtering, right? There is no like, oh, if you say free or use this word, you're going to go to the spam filter. That's not really how those things work. However, what people don't tend to know or check about is a way that content does matter. And that is the reputation of all the URLs within your email, right? So if you have a link to a dodgy site, or maybe I'm hosting images with somebody and they're not my own site, if the reputation of that image host is bad, that can drag down your whole email's ability to reach the inbox. So content filtering isn't really so much about I used a specific word. That's a myth, but the content does and the structure does still matter, but it's much more about the reputation of the URLs, that I properly formed the email. And of course, if I didn't do a good job at making the email, it's not going to look right across clients, and email marketers know that especially Outlook can be difficult to make the email display properly. It is both a science and an art to be able to make the thing look right across all the different clients, right? Most web developers have to deal with like maybe 5 or 6 major browsers. Email marketers deal with 90+ email clients, every one of which makes it look slightly different. And when those things break down, engagement breaks down. And when engagement starts to fall because of a bad customer experience, your ability to reach the inbox will follow it.
You are someone who undoubtedly has looked at a lot of emails through the years. Have
Yes.
you seen a brand or a company where you've thought, now these guys over here, they get it?
There are lots of them out there. One that I liked a lot for a while was, I thought it was very interesting, was Torrid used to do tied clicks back to their loyalty program. So if you opened and clicked in an email, one of the ones that they sent that day, you would get a point in their loyalty program. If you get enough points, you get a small, like a token of appreciation type reward. So I think it was, if you got 100 points, you got $5 when it first came out as a reward in the loyalty program. To look at that another way, they paid $5 to get you to click 100 times. And, I am subscribed to their emails, though I don't buy a lot of Plus women's clothing. But what I did find was that because I was opening these emails all the time just so that I could click to get my points, because I'm that type of person, that it worked, right? I ended up buying gifts for other people a lot more often than I would have shopped there, simply because I was trying to get the loyalty point. You can see engagement devices in a lot of emails where you see like the thumbs up and the thumbs down. Did you like this email? Did you rate this email? So look for ways that you can allow feedback within the email by having them click. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a reward. People like to express their opinions about email. So that is one way to allow them to do that. And then that creates engagement and it creates stickiness for your emails.
Very, very clever ideas. Well, Luke Glasner, what is an email marketer's most valuable resource?
I would say their most valuable resource is the list and keeping it clean. Because if you don't have a good list, if your list is dirty, you're not going to reach the inbox. And that's not just for the, people that you have a bad address in there for, but it's for everything, right? So the quality of your list and your ability to use its data is probably one of the most important assets for email. A good list will outperform a bad list every day, and a smaller good list will outperform a huge list because it reaches the inbox while the vast majority of the other one doesn't. I'd rather have 100, I'll use small numbers. I'd rather have 100 people that are truly interested and likely to buy than 1,000 people that view my emails with apathy, right? They
Mm,
don't care. There is value to always being in their inbox, but I do think that the quality of the subscribers plays a big role, and having ways to keep the list clean, validating people not only when they come in, but checking up on them again is a great way to keep the list clean. But also take a look at things like how long does a person last? When should I activate re-engagement? A lot of people used to just use kind of some best practice like, oh, if it's been 6 months or 9 months, send them the re-engagement. My view on that is that if the person is already stopped engaging with your emails, the re-engagement effort will likely fall flat because they're already ignoring you, right? So understand the lifespan of a subscriber and then get out ahead of that so that before the person disappears is when you start to re-engage them, when you might convert them with a win-back type offer or something like that. Don't wait till they're totally gone because the chances of you re-engaging them become slimmer and slimmer the longer it's been.
sound advice. Well, the list is valuable. As you say, people want the list to deliver, so to speak. Is deliverability complicated? How do you think a marketer or a company, how should they approach it? How should they feel about it?
I would say that deliverability is complicated and it has gotten harder as the years have gone by. The sender guidelines that came out last year from Yahoo and Google, and then we watched Microsoft and Apple also jump on the bandwagon with very similar sender guidelines. While they are clearly communicated in their FAQs, it's not easy to do some of the things they say, right? For example, they're like, oh, we'll keep your spam complaints under a threshold of 0.3% and the recommended threshold is 0.1%. That works out to 1 out of 1,000. But that's not necessarily easy to do. It's not, one, a lot of the ISPs won't tell you who complained. They just tell you that they did. Google, for example, tells you that people marked you as spam, but they don't tell you who. So it's not like you can go, oh, well, that was the guy that marked me. Let me go suppress them. It's often not that simple. The other thing is the technical setup. Not everyone gets the ins and outs of how SPF and DKIM work. If you know how, yeah, it's easy. I post a DNS record and I know what all the things in it do. But if you don't know that stuff, it can be a little scary, right? Like people don't like to mess with DNS records. If you make a mistake, you break the website or you break the mail server. So it's important to understand what you're doing and how those work. And I think that can be hard for different marketers to address, that's not really in their day to day. So it may be something that they don't really know about, or maybe they're just nervous about it. And I will say out to all the email marketers, everyone, even those of us who have been around for a very long time, everyone sweats it when they hit the send button. That is, I remember MailChimp used to have like the monkey finger that come down over the send button and you could see the hand was sweating. What I will say is this, no one that has ever worked in email for any length of time has had 100% campaign rate. Everyone makes an error at some point, right? So have a plan for when that's going to happen and a way to react in a good way to it.
Very good. This is a question I never used to see before, but What would you say to someone, because this has cropped up a lot? I've seen this in webinars. It's hit my own inbox where people have said, well, I've cleaned the list. Isn't that enough? What do you say to that?
Cleaning the list is a great start, and it's important to do the list hygiene, but it goes beyond that. You need to segment the list to find the different types of content, the types of creative that will resonate with that particular segment. Once your list gets to be in the thousands, it's not like there's any way for you to personally know everyone on the list anymore, right? A lot of people maybe started a newsletter or something when they start the store. It's like their early customers, it's family and friends, it's people they actually know. So they have a good idea of who they're writing to. But as you scale, once you get to hundreds of thousands, millions of people on the list, one, all those people's needs are going to be different. So you don't want to send them the same thing. And that's where segmentation and profiling come in, right? So you can segment based on virtually anything in email. There's a lot. Whatever data you have in that ESP, you can probably build a segment around it. But there are different ones that you want to do. For example, like a first-time customer, repeat customers, prospects, various profiling techniques. For example, I like to use cluster analysis. You find people that naturally kind of form their own natural subscriber segments because they're similar people. Once you have a good profile of the person, you can then build content, creative, frequency, strategy around reaching those different people.
Very good. If somebody or their company is just starting to dip their legs in the water of deliverability, I've encountered people at the dog park who they have a huge list and they are just now they realize, oh, there's something I need to do about this. What would you say is a starting point?
Get some data and some insight and tools around your deliverability. We have a wonderful ZeroBounce ONE package that has all of our tools in it, along with validation credits every month. It's very affordable, only $99. That's cheap enough that virtually anyone could do it. But also take advantage of free resources, right? So for example, virtually any sender can sign up for Google Postmasters. It's domain based, so you don't need to have your own dedicated IP. Microsoft SNDS is also very good. Again, also free, but you do need a dedicated IP in order to be able to do that. So not everyone, especially smaller mailers, can actually use that. Whereas Postmasters, everyone can use it, and it will show you things like the compliance dashboard. Since most of the major mailbox providers all use basically the same sender guidelines, that's a good way to check, am I meeting all the requirements for bulk senders? For example, does my list unsubscribe header work? Am I honoring unsubscribes quickly? Yes, you can look at spam complaints in there, but of course those are specifically for Gmail, for Google, for Gmail. And if you use Microsoft, you can look at theirs. I also like that they give reputation, sender rep, where they rate you from bad, low, medium, or high. Obviously, everyone wants to be at the top of the line in the green, high, right? If you think about what the colors mean, it's green is it's a traffic light, right? So red is like, stop, there's a problem here. Yellow, medium is, be cautious, you're slipping into problem areas, and green is everything's going good. Hit the gas pedal and keep going. But that is a good way to get started with understanding what your sender reputation is, and it's free and everyone can do it. It's really relatively easy to sign up, and then you just verify the domain and you're good to go.
I consider shameless at times, the word shameless, to be a badge of honor, but we're both with ZeroBounce. I am wearing a ZeroBounce polo, so I can't resist this question. Have you ever seen anything like ZeroBounce ONE?
No, I can answer that really easily. No, I have never. I have seen deliverability suites before, but they are like 10x more expensive typically. The other thing I've never seen about at a lot of companies I worked in over my career is the speed at which we respond to customer ideas, to requests internally. Hey, this person told me about this. Can we build it for them? This would be a great thing to improve our deliverability tools. And they've just been outstanding at getting those things updated and fixed. We're making it better all the time. And there are a lot of tools in there. I especially like the email server test that checks out all your configuration. It is significantly more robust than many similar checkers. And will tell you everything you need to know. And if you see something in there that you need to fix, you can fix it. And if you don't know how, you can give us a call and we will certainly help you. I also really like the inbox placement tool because one of the things where people try and do that on their own, but what they don't think about is how those algorithms work, right? Chances are I open a lot of my own, especially if I work in email marketing. I'm probably the person that opens and clicks on the most emails, right? Most email marketers open every email they send and click every link to be sure that they all go to the right place. So how you engage with email is very high engagement, whereas other people have low engagement. One of the things that's important about an inbox placement test is that it does rotate the seeds on a regular basis. Once they've kind of been established, the results tend to repeat themselves. So they get stale basically over time. And so it's important to have a tool where those get updated regularly so that you're getting accurate results on your inbox placement.
Great information. Well, Luke Glasner, would there be a Luke Glasner theme song? Like if you were to walk to the plate, what song would they play?
Let's see. Well, we could go with baseball analogy and put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. Might be a good song to go for that. Although that's kind of out of the genres of music I normally listen to. It would probably be some type of alternative or grunge song.
Okay, interesting.
Perhaps "Here Comes Your Man" by the Pixies. That might be a good one.
Here Comes Your Man by the Pixies.
Yes.
Well, if we were on the radio, that would be the fade out song. But my last question, I love this question, and I usually apply whatever the person says. How can anyone, that person who's watching or listening or reading this, how can anyone out there make today better?
Be kind to one another and be understanding. That's a good way to make today better. When the people around you, when you're putting out positivity in the world and the people around you are feeling that positivity, they respond with positivity to you. And so by helping others and being nice to others, you receive help and boosts to your own confidence in return. And so that's a good way we can make the world a nicer place.
Like it. I like it. Anything I left out? Anything you'd like to leave our viewers and listeners with?
I love to talk about email. So if you have an email problem or an email question, don't be afraid to go on our site and schedule a call for me. Not every call has to be a project. I'd be happy to talk to you about any aspect of email based on my years of experience because it truly is a passion of mine and one of the things I truly love to do. So your biggest complaint on a call about email with me is that we go over time.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, and I know that everybody who is checking this interview out appreciates it as well. I've had a good time, and I have learned a lot.
Thank you. It was great being on, and I appreciate the invite.
Thank you.